Welcome to NACTV Reads the News. My name is Cathy McGrath, and I'm one of many volunteers that help create programming for our station. NACTV can be seen on MTS Channel 30 or 1030, Westman Cable Channel 17, Bell Satellite Channel 592, or online at nactv.tv. These programs are made possible by our volunteers, staff, advertisers, as well as donations made by you, the viewers. If you are enjoying your NACTV experience, please consider supporting us by either donation or volunteering. You can contact our office at 204-476-2639 or at nactv@wcgwave.ca. And today's edition of the Neepawa Banner and Press is for Friday, April 11th, 2025. And building a house, making it a home. Neepawa Habitat for Humanity picks its partner for 2025 by Owen Devereaux. Nowadays, home ownership can be near impossible for almost any family, even the ones who are doing everything they can to earn the opportunity. The struggle to save money for a house due to the high cost of food and rent is an unfortunate reality many of us are dealing with. But for Rachel Quizon, all the hard work, saving, and sacrifice has finally provided her with the one thing we all hope from this life, and earned an opportunity. On Tuesday, April 8th, Neepawa's Habitat for Humanity announced that Rachel had been chosen as the partner in the inaugural home being built by the nonprofit organization. Rachel Quizon is a hardworking mom, a single mom who works so many jobs, who's dedicated to providing the best for her daughter, and we are so excited that this is going to be your home. So congratulations, announced Amanda Nottingale, who is in charge of the family selection process. For Rachel, the journey to this moment began in her arrival in Neepawa just over 3 years ago. Since her arrival, the lone caregiver for a 13-year-old daughter has worked tirelessly to slowly build up her finances, saving every cent to try and purchase a place of her own. But there were many obstacles in the way, including Quizon and her daughter being one of the families displaced by a house fire on Mill Street a few years ago. It was a case of one step forward, but two back. Fortunately, an opportunity presented itself in the form of Habitat for Humanity. Rachel learned of the organization and attended the initial introductory meeting in Neepawa last year. She decided to submit an application and after extensive process was chosen as Neepawa's first Habitat partner. Speaking with the Banner and Press, Quizon expressed extreme gratitude for the opportunity. "I can do the very hard work as I can for my daughter and my son, who at this time remains in the Philippines. That stability of being able to have a home of your own is going to help with perhaps allowing her to bring her son to Canada on a permanent basis." "When I first heard that we had been selected, I was so happy. I'm excited and thankful," stated Quizon. And pictured is Rachel Quizon, fourth from left, poses with members of the Neepawa Habitat for Humanity Steering Committee, as well as Agassiz MLA Jody Byram, after the announcement of Rachel being the inaugural partner in the local home build planned for later this year. The mandate for Habitat for Humanity is to partner with a selected family, build a house to suit their particular need, and sell to them at a fair market value. There is no down payment required, and the monthly mortgage that is paid is always 27% of the family's gross income. Another important part of the deal is that there is no interest on the mortgage payments, like there would be if you purchased a home through the bank or a credit union. At its simplest terms, while the homeowner is paying their mortgage to Habitat as opposed to a financial institution, they are still buying that home, just like everyone else. There are also other requirements for a family to partner with Habitat for Humanity, including the selected family putting in 500 hours of sweat equity. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it's at the house building it. That's improvement in their community or helping out other places. During the public presentation on April 8th, board member Don Walmsley explained that Habitat for Humanity's home ownership is a hand up and not a handout, and that they look forward to working with deserving families to fulfill their dream of home ownership. As for the technical aspects of building this habitat home, Steering Committee Chair John Lavitch says that if everything goes according to plan, they hope to begin construction in late May or early June. We're optimistic that we should be able to start in June, perhaps even the end of May. If that's when we are able to begin, you're probably looking between 3 to 4 months on site to be finished. There's always going to be a little bit of tinkering to do, but yeah, that's a schedule that is possible. We're optimistic that it will be ready to hand over before the end of the year. I want to be done before the snow flies for sure. The structure itself will be around 970 square feet with a basement and 2 bedrooms. The current market value of a similar type of that build is around $275,000. To begin construction, about 75% of the required cost needs to be assembled. As of the start of April, $160,000 was collected through Stride Credit Union did present a Habitat with a check for an additional $5,000. Anyone wishing to donate can learn more by reaching out to Habitat for Humanity, either at its official website or by contacting the Neepawa chapter on the social media platforms. Any donations over $20 are tax deductible. And pictured is Rachel Cuison of Neepawa, the first partner with Habitat for Humanity Neepawa. And left is a picture of the aerial view of the location proposed home, which will be 407 Isabel Street. And above right, a similar style of Habitat house built in Dauphin. And right in the center by Ken Waddell. No words strong enough. I am very annoyed that there are no words strong enough that can be used in print to express my level of annoyance. What I am writing about is the behavior of thieves and vandals in southwestern Manitoba. You are despicable lowlifes who have no excuse for theft or vandalism. We live in a fairly prosperous area where there are many jobs unfulfilled and many opportunities are readily available. I stand to be corrected, but for thieves and vandals, I currently see no excuse for such behavior other than you are misguided and dreadfully evil. We have many reports of theft across the southern part of Manitoba. Farms, homes, and businesses are being targeted with theft of tools, vehicles, gas, and anything that can readily be turned into cash. Security cameras are recording illegal activities in large numbers, and while the police are doing the best they can, it seems they can't stay ahead of the crime wave. Citizens are constantly being warned not try to stop thieves in the act, that getting injured is not worth fighting with thieves. Even after you have locked all your doors to houses, sheds, and barns, put away all the vehicle keys and install security cameras, the theft and vandalism still continues. It's hard not to bring on the guard dogs and the shotguns. I've lost count of the number of times I've been told that somebody is going to get killed. If a threatened property owner confronts a thief or a group of thieves and takes action, they might be charged by the police. And don't believe for a minute that at least some of the thieves can read well enough to know that is what the police are advising. It seems there is no deterrent, no shame, no punishment, and no threat that will stop the waves of vandalism and theft. Our home was subject of a theft, a couple of power tools 2 years ago. This winter, our post office mailbox was robbed and checks were illegally cashed by night deposit into a hacked bank account. Needless to say, we had to contact our customers, ask them to trace where their check was cashed, and track it down through the receiving bank. Not sure how they are making out recovering their money, but our customers have to write another check to cover our bill. Needless to say, we are, at least temporarily, dealing with a cash flow gap. That's annoying too, and causes a lot of extra work for us and our customers. There is a major discussion going on these days around the idea that multiple crimes are being committed by a relatively few criminals on a given area. I believe that is likely true. Leaders across all our society are speaking out against the catch and release system. I suspect there are a lot more citizens and leaders who are speaking out that I may not have heard about. Changes to our legal system can't come too soon. If the changes don't come, yes, someone will be killed. And a final word to the thieves and vandals. Get a life and stop being despicable scum of the earth. If you would work as hard at a job as you do for thefts, you would be better off. And Home Buddies by Rita Friesen. Peeling back the layers. Over the many years of sharing my thoughts with all of you, I have been open and honest about my fears and failures, my hopes and dreams, and all of life that each one of us face. These past weeks have been a strange journey of grief. I'm familiar with bidding farewell to family and friends. Death comes with living. My first true sorrow was when a lad who had been a classmate before our family relocated and remained a family friend died on the football field. I was just a teenager. A few years later, a grandfather I loved and respected died after suffering a stroke. And so my journey with death and loss began. Right now, I am struggling with what I term grief fog, as a real state as baby brain. There are days when I feel like my path is through heavy, wet sand, each step requiring so much effort and concentration. And there are days when I am energized, though, and by avenues of service. The reality is that, one, I can't stay busy all the time so that I don't think and feel so deeply. I'm using 2 calendars, reminding myself what the day, the week, and the month hold in the line of activities and responsibilities. This month, I missed leading a service that I love to lead. It simply disappeared from my mind. And when I was made aware of my unexplained absence, I was crushed. I crushed myself. And then I second-guessed, what else have I missed? And what else might I miss? The unrest continues. Unrest settles in. I acknowledge that I have drawn my head into my shell and avoid casual social contact, and sometimes avoid meaningful interactions with folks I truly love and care about. I have spent much time analyzing the depth of my grief. I have spoken to my wonderfully supportive doctor, and we are working on solutions and improvements. May it be so. What I am understanding is that I'm going to be okay. What I'm feeling and thinking are common. One of the reasons I so appreciate the new creed of the United Church of Canada is the bold statement, "We are not alone." The creed opens with, "We are not alone. We live in God's world." And after the statement of our faith, we conclude with, "We are not alone. Thanks be to God." Over my years, I have had so many family members die, grandparents, parents, aunts and uncles galore, cousins, friends, a wee one I cared for 8 weeks, 2 fine gentlemen that loved me truly and well. The reality that my son died is somehow different, heavier. Differentiating factor is the years of estrangement. There was no witness to the dimming of the light, the lessening of abilities. There was the word that he was gone. And for all the times I said farewell to the lad, the man I knew, there is no opportunity for shared grief. Almost a sense that I have no right to be so sad. I'm not done exploring these thoughts and feelings, and I'm so appreciate the support and grace that you extend to me. I am not alone. And Faithfully Yours by Neil Stroschein. Walking the Road of Suffering. The ancient Romans were not known for being kind to those they executed for serious crimes. The condemned endured the most cruel and inhumane treatment anyone could imagine before being taken to a public place, nailed to a rough wooden cross, hung suspended between heaven and earth, and left to die. That fate awaited Jesus, but before he was subjected to Roman justice, he went through a series of illegal trials. The first was in the house of the Jewish high priest. Then he was sent to a king named Herod, the same Herod who, at his wife's insistence, had ordered the death of John the Baptist 3 years earlier. Herod had never met Jesus, but he wanted to. He believed that Jesus was John the Baptist who had been risen from the dead. He was hoping to have some long conversations with Jesus, just as he had done with John. Sadly for Herod, their one conversation was very short and very one-sided. Herod did all the talking. Jesus never spoke a word. So it was back to the high priest for another trial. The testimony of the witnesses at the first trial, all lies from people paid to perjure themselves, was reviewed, and the religious court determined that Jesus deserved to die. But they had a problem. By Roman law, the only person who could order Jesus' execution was Pontius Pilate, the Roman governor. So Jesus was taken to Pilate's judgment hall for trial number 4. Pilate's verdict shocked everyone. "I find no fault in him," he said. "I will have him flogged and let him go." Now Jesus' intense suffering began. He was tied to a post in the Roman citadel's courtyard, and with various soldiers taking turns, he was giving a whipping that left him with open, bleeding sores and bruises all over his body. The soldiers made a crown out of thorns and jammed it down on his head. They found a purple robe and put it on him, and then, urged on by their colleagues and the crowd, they bowed down to him in mocking and submission and said, "Hail, King of the Jews!" Jesus said nothing. Behind the scenes, while the whipping was taking place, the chief priests and Pilate worked out a deal that they felt would satisfy everyone. A notorious criminal named Barabbas would be set free. Jesus would be crucified. Pilate was able to save face. The temple authorities got what they wanted, the death of Jesus of Nazareth. Had these people taken the time to read Psalm 76, they would have known that they have read these words, "Surely the wrath of men shall praise thee." That happened. Jesus' battered, bruised, and bleeding body was removed from the cross and placed in a tomb. 3 days later, God raised it to life. But the body that came out of the tomb showed no signs of the torment and torture Jesus endured. Jesus endured the worst suffering anyone could face, and he did it all for you and me. He knows the pain, agony, and suffering you may be experiencing today. He is right here, right now, ready to offer you all the help you need to survive and thrive whatever life sends you. Just ask for his help. He will send it your way immediately. Pain and suffering are part of life, but thanks to Jesus' death on our behalf, they will not last forever. A life free from death, pain, sorrow, crying, and sickness awaits us. It is coming. We just don't know when. And a thumbs up, thumbs down. A thumbs up to Agassiz MLA Jody Byram, who wonderfully represents concerns on rural security. Such a pleasure to have our local concerns raised in the Manitoba Legislative Assembly by such a passionate and intelligent representative. From Robert F. Smith of Edmonds. On the April 4th issue of the Neepawa Banner, we incorrectly stated that Jim Brewer was from Plumas. A reader phoned to say that is incorrect. Our apologies. And the Gladstone Market Report by Tyler Slawinski. The days are getting longer and the cattle sales are getting shorter and smaller as we continue to sell cattle at record prices across the prairies. It is that time of year again when the mud gets deeper every day and we transition from frozen ground to dry ground. It always has to get worse before it gets better. Cows and bulls sold with aggression and higher averages. Feeding type cows and heiferettes are still selling stronger than yielding cows. Yielding cows still traded from 187 to 205, looking like strong demands. Feeding type cows are ranging between 205 to 215. Bulls traded slightly stronger, ranging between 225 to 245. We sold 496 head through the ring on April 8th. Reminder for cattle producers, there will be a sale on April 15th and no sale on April 22nd. And we're reviewing some of the candidates for the upcoming election. Terry Hayward pledges rural focus in Parliament. Liberal candidate introduction by Casper Warehan. And pictured is Terence Hayward, the Liberal candidate. Terry Hayward has stepped forward as the Liberal candidate for the Riding Mountain electoral district. Whilst Hayward is new to this particular electoral riding, he is not new to politics. He is up for election in other districts in the past, including Brandon Souris in 2019. Additionally, Hayward has also decades of experience on a federal level with regards to agriculture and agricultural trade. This includes working as a diplomat with the Canadian government in the Canadian Embassy in Washington, D.C. for policy on agricultural forestry, fisheries and food, the Canadian High Commission in Wellington, New Zealand for promotion of Canadian goods and services, and over 3 decades of service with Agriculture Canada and Agri-Foods Canada at various locations throughout the nation. In addition to his years of experience, Hayward also noted that he steps into his election with a rural focus. I come with a great interest in rural Manitoba. A large part of my life has been spent in agriculture and rural development, and I've been a rural resident for over 34 years, said Hayward. Riding Mountain is a huge rural area with many towns and villages. I empathize with the issues and concerns rural Canadians have. Hayward expanded further, noting that he has been born and raised in Brandon, with short-term residence in Pilot Mound and Holland, and is currently residing on the family farm in Alona, near Beausejour. He added, This is a particular region with some very good industry here, which is ag-related, of course. In Neepawa, you've got High Life Plant with its hog facility, and Dauphin there is the new tomato facility, Vermilion Growers Limited, which is quite a place. You've got wood particle board business in Swan River. There's a lot of agroforestry industry and fisheries that can be and have to be taken into account. You've got the whole range of agriculture coming in this riding. As part of the Liberal platform, the party plans to address issues related to the economy, such as the tariffs imposed by both the USA and China and interprovincial trade. We can't depend on the United States. That relationship is broken. We now have to forge stronger and more resilient relationships with like-minded foreign governments and countries and businesses, said Hayward. Prime Minister Carney has also promised the Canadian people that by July 1st he will remove all federal interprovincial trade barriers. Hayward also made note of the large immigrant population in areas such as Neepawa and Swan River, and stated that he is committed to listening to and working with those populations with regards to issues they may face on a personal and larger cultural level. Another priority is people such as seniors in need of support, children, youth health care, and local businesses. What you see is what you get with me. I bring my background, both education and work experience. I bring my community involvement and volunteerism, said Hayward. I come with a pretty full resume of being involved and willing to work hard for whatever community I'm in. I will work hard in the government for the riding. I will take the voices, issues, and concerns of the people of Riding Mountain to the Prime Minister and his cabinet so that rural is not overlooked. I will be open and work for all the people of Riding Mountain. And then we move on to Dan Mazur pledges to put Canada first. Conservative candidate launches re-election bid, and pictured, Dan Mazur has finalized his paperwork and now is officially the candidate within the Riding Mountain District for the Conservative Party of Canada, by Owen Devereux. While our federal riding has a brand new name and a few more locations for the borders, Dan Mazur is still hitting the campaign trail in that old familiar region with the same enthusiasm he's had in the last two times. Mazur, who is the incumbent for the recently rechristened district of Riding Mountain, is officially running for re-election. His inaugural victory was in 2019, with 64.2% of the vote in the now former Dauphin Swan River Neepawa constituency. Mazur followed that with a similar but still strong made at 59% of overall vote in 2021. Now, 4 years later, the Conservative Party candidate is wasting no time snapping back into his election mode, having already knocked on over 5,000 doors. While traveling across a riding that's larger than the province of Nova Scotia may seem tiresome for you or me, Mazur views it as a privilege. Mazur adds that in his travels so far, he's hearing a very clear message from the voters. The message has been loud and clear. After a decade of Liberal policies that have punished Canadians, especially those in rural areas, people are ready for a change, said Mazur. Voters want a government that puts Canada first, lowers taxes, makes life more affordable, and restores public safety. As part of the Conservative platform, Mazur is discussing a plan to cut taxes. One key pledge would be to include reducing income taxes by up to 15%. On average, that policy would save a working family up to $1,800 annually. Our plan delivers real relief for hardworking Canadians, Mazur stated. Mazur is also prioritizing support for seniors, promising to raise the taxable income threshold from $24,000 to $34,000, allowing retirees to keep savings in RRSPs until age 73 and keep the retirement age at 65. Another topic that he has heard quite a bit about locally is crime and public safety. Violent crime has surged by 50% in the last decade because of reckless Liberal soft-on-crime policies, Mazur stated. Bills C5 and C75 had let repeat offenders walk free on bail. A Conservative government will repeal those laws immediately and ensure repeat offenders are in jail instead of out on bail. As the campaign progresses, Mazur promised that he will continue meeting with residents and sharing his vision for Riding Mountain. Our plan is clear, our priorities are strong, and our movement is growing, expressed Mazur. I will always stand up for our rural way of life. This way of life defines our region, and I will never apologize for defending rural Canada. And A little art. Nooner hockey picks up some young blood. And pictured the Yellowhead Arena in Neepawa was buzzing on Friday, April 4th as a homecoming of sorts occurred. During spring break, Murray Black, age 74, and family members Miles Miller, age 14, Cole Miller, age 19, and Greg Miller, age 17, gathered to play hockey together as part of an annual tradition the family does over the spring break holidays. And move on. Liz Clayton puts Prairie's first in election bid by Joshua Jackson, the Green Party candidate Liz Clayton. With the 2025 federal election weeks away, the Neepawa Banner and Press is diving in to get to know this year's candidates. Green Party candidate Liz Clayton has been destined for politics for as long as she can remember, growing up with the newspapers and magazines scattered around the house, arguing current events around the table. I'm a lifelong learner with a degree in English and History and Red River College Education Assistant Certification. I have had a lot of careers, commercial radio DJ back in the 1970s. I woke up to politics during the first free trade deal in 1980, said Clayton. I protested globalization in the 1990s. In the late 1990s, I helped relaunch the campus and community radio station at the University of Manitoba, which I managed for several years. Along the way, the Green Party candidate had 2 sons and eventually became and credits mothering during a period of poverty and the vagaries of corporate culture for activating her. Clayton and her partner have been living on the edge of the Agassiz Escarpment for almost 20 years, where they enjoy 32 acres of wildland with some pretty big vegetable, herb, and permaculture gardens and a few chickens. We also kept a few pigs and some serious meat chickens. We built a low-energy northern greenhouse on the south side of our house 15 years ago, where we grow, eat, share, and sell our fresh greens all winter long. Clayton joined the Portage Lisgar Green Party Association 15 years ago and has many reasons why you should vote Green in the upcoming federal election, including giving a voice to the prairies, as she believes we have been overlooked and not part of the national debate. That has never been so glaringly obvious since the tariff threats. All the talk, politically, in the media has been about the Ontario automotive industry. When China put 100% tariffs on canola products and 25% on pork products, there was barely a whisper, she said. I say remove those tariffs immediately. We are no longer in lockstep with the U.S., whom we were supporting when we instituted the tariffs. And in exchange, cap canola acres and hog barn expansion exactly where they are. Clayton and the Green Party also believe in grassroots democracy through proportional representation. The fair vote system would give voice to all of the people of the prairies. In our current system, the winner takes all. Trudeau promised he would do this. I think it was the first promise he broke, said Clayton. The candidate wants to see maintained and developed wilderness corridors in the Rocky Mountain, tax breaks for farmers who maintain wildlands, and tax breaks for keeping the land uncultivated in a pristine wild state. Whole tracts of the prairies are being razed to the ground right now, said Clayton. If it hasn't been cleared already, it's probably too wet, steep, or sandy. It's the last of the original prairie. Clayton also believes in a universal basic living wage to break the cycle of poverty and noted an experiment in Dauphin called the Mincome Experiment in the 70s. It can be done. It has been done. Clayton also feels that the hundreds of regulations have made homes unaffordable. We don't all need or want to live in a giant cookie-cutter houses wrapped in plastic, but that's all you can get a mortgage for, she said. That's all that zoning regulations will allow. We need more freedom to build what we want, especially in rural areas. We need zoning that allows for limited homesteading on marginal land. Clayton urges that those who want to learn more to visit the Green Party's website at greenparty.ca. And passing the torch. The Kilwood Legion number 50 hosted the district meeting on Saturday, April 5th. 21 people were in attendance. Lunch was enjoyed and many great ideas exchanged. George Fisher, far right, after 10 years of dedicated service, welcomed Neil Griffith, far left, to serve as district commander. And another note, 2025 Canadian federal election riding Mountain. Last week's edition of Banner and Press profiles of four-known candidates at the time for the Riding Mountain District were published. Dan Mazur, Conservative, Liz Clayton, Green, Terry Haywood, Liberal, and Donnan McKenna, People's Party. After the publication deadline, the People's Party announced a change to its local candidate, as Jim Oliver has taken over as the representative for the People's Party of Canada within the Riding Mountain riding. In the interest of fairness, his introductory profile appears in this week's paper. In regard to the local New Democratic Party of Canada, as of Wednesday, there was no candidate listed to run on Riding Mountain on the NDP's national website. The Neepawa Banner Press contacted the NDP for details and received a reply confirming Andy Maxwell will be their local candidate. We hope to have profile articles on both Maxwell and Oliver in a future edition. The federal election will be held on Monday, April 28th to elect members of the House of Commons to the 45th Canadian Parliament. And here's a brief biography on People's Party of Canada, Jim Oliver. Born and raised in Manitoba, Jim has spent his entire life in the province, now residing on a 160-acre homestead on the eastern edge of Riding Mountain National Park. His primary focus is on raising his family and managing his farm, where he and his wife Monique have raised livestock and cultivate a large vegetable garden with the help of their 3 young sons. Jim is dedicated to homeschooling his children in a traditional manner while maintaining a diverse farm with poultry, cattle, and swine. His professional background includes years in the automotive parts industry, including 12 years operating his own specialty automotive parts store, which he successfully sold to prioritize family life and new ventures. A lifelong artist and creative, Jim also spent 5 years as a professional tattoo artist in Winnipeg before moving to the countryside in pursuit of a quieter, self-sufficient lifestyle. Committed to family values, sustainability, and hard work, Jim embodies the principles of self-reliance and community engagement. And note that April is Cancer Awareness Month. Every 3 minutes, someone in Canada hears the words, "You have cancer," and their life changes forever. But there's hope. Your support this Daffodil Month for the Canadian Cancer Society helps with world-leading research and compassionate support that could change the future for someone you love. To some, the daffodil is just a flower. For us, it is a symbol of strength and courage. It says we will not give up. It says we will fight against cancer and we will win. There are many ways to join the fight against cancer in April. Volunteer as little as 2 hours of your time. Do something special for someone you know with cancer. For example, make a meal, do an errand, babysit. Contact your provincial or local politicians to voice the importance of fighting back against cancer and tell them how they can join with the society in this fight. Spread the word through social media or make a presentation in your community to help raise awareness about how Canadians can fight back against cancer. Show support and make a difference in your own way, no matter how big or small. And the MJHL semifinal series playoffs. Killarney Shamrocks win Tiger Hills League title. The Killarney Shamrocks claim the Tiger Hills Hockey League championship, defeating the Verdun Oil Kings in the final 3-1. Ty Enns was named the playoff MVP, leading the postseason with 33 points. The league title allowed Killarney to represent Tiger Hills at the Manitoba Senior A Provincial Championship. The Shamrocks challenged the St. Anne Aces, the champs from the Southeastern Manitoba Hockey League. St. Anne won the best-of-3 championships, 2-0. And the 2025 Arden Curling Bonspiel. The 2025 edition of the Arden Mixed Curling Bonspiel was held from April 3rd to 6, 2025 at the Arden Curling Club. Here are the names of the team members from left to right, skip to lead. The Platt Construction first event winners, top right pictured, Kevin Paramore, Ashley Schweitzer, Harvey Hanks, and Morgan Paramore. NAPA Autopot second event winners, middle right picture, Maury Zaritz, Fred Scott, Kent Delaburo, Daisy Cameron, and Darcy Bialis. Parrish and Heinbecker third event winners, bottom right picture, James Paramore, Dennis Orton, Marge Goodwill, and Kay Gowan. We'd like to sincerely thank all our volunteers, sponsors, and curlers that made this event and the entire 2025 curling season a success. And the 2024-25 Neepawa Titans Team Awards. The Neepawa Titans concluded their 2024 MJHL season with the handing out of their year-end awards. Goaltender Mason Lobrew was honored with the top Manitoban and most valuable player. Other awards included Ryan Gower, top defenseman, Mason Hartley, leading scorer, Jason Kohut, most improved, Braden Knox, unsung hero, Tim Tychonik, hardest worker, Alex Meyer, coach's award, Garrett McDonald, Lionel Crother Memorial Award, Cooper Kasprick, CAMO Cattle Company fan favorite, and Caden Haggerty, Home Hardware 3 stars. As well, Jamie Dembo received the Gary Ridley Memorial Volunteer of the Year Award. Congrats to all the players on an amazing season. And they are all pictured here, receiving their awards. And Neepawa's Gardenview Farm prepares for the 2025 flower season, and pictured, Glenda McPhee, owner of Gardenview Farm, has been hard at work in her greenhouse, by Casper Warehan. While weather this spring has been back and forth, preparations for the 2025 flower season are well on their way for Gardenview Farm. Owned and operated by Glenda McPhee, Gardenview Farm is situated just 2 miles south of Neepawa on the lake edge of Lake Irwin. McPhee has been a dedicated gardener since her retirement from teaching, has been flower farmer for 5 years. The Neepawa Banner and Press had the opportunity to speak with her on Monday, April 8th, for an update on her business as the weather begins to gain consistency. My greenhouse is full, and I'm hoping that later this week I can lower the heaters. But the sun certainly helps. McPhee enthused, the greenhouse is also full of perennials this year because the horticultural group has ordered some less common perennials, and we're putting them up for our plant sale in May during the Chamber Fair weekend. Some of my seedlings will go for that sale too, McPhee added. I'm working on getting things transplanted right now into bigger pots because my grow lights in the house have run out of space. I also got maple trees tapped for sap, and I'm just hoping for spring because I run out of space. McPhee's sap collections and syrup production is a personal hobby, and so is not for sale. However, it is occasionally used as a valuable learning experience for students and other individuals who are curious about the process. Gardenview's public services include bouquet subscription and sales, garden tours, and used as a venue for special gatherings such as wedding ceremonies. Gardenview has also offered U-Pick services in the past, which McPhee is looking to expand further this year. U-Pick is a common flower farmer service, but is noted to be a unique experience for Neepawa. Additionally, Gardenview's location makes for a scenic experience. My garden is right out in the open, overlooking the lake, so the birds come in, and it's just a nice setting for people to come in and wander through the garden. Usually in the evening when it's a little cooler and the sun is setting, said McPhee. It's really very different than just getting a bouquet of flowers delivered to your door, so I really want to push that this year. Other services McPhee is considering for the 2025 season are workshops and flower bars. Flower bars are a service in which McPhee would pick the flowers and sort them in buckets, then the customer could pick out the flowers for the bouquet. McPhee also offers a community service for seniors via her Sponsor a Senior program, which sees her provide flowers to seniors at Country Meadows Personal Care Home. The exciting thing for this year is that Yvonne Sisley approached me from Arts Forward, and we're trying to set up things with Touchwood individuals to come and help in the yard. They will also help to prepare bouquets for my Sponsor a Senior program, said McPhee, adding later, it's very rewarding to take those bouquets to the Country Meadows residents and say, here's some flowers for you. Evidently, there is plenty to watch for at Gardenview Farms. Providing the final statement, McPhee noted that she was able to complete her first walk-around of the gardens recently, seeing all the new life begin to take shape. I'm pretty excited about the next few weeks, McPhee enthused. Riverside Colony declared the Quality Pork Championships. The Royal Manitoba Winter Fair held its annual pork quality luncheon on Wednesday, April 2nd. Member of the Legislative Assembly, MLA, Jody Byram is pictured here, congratulating the grand champion winners, Riverside Colony of Arden. Seen from left to right are Carrie Gould and Trevor Stanforth from Fortified Nutrition, MLA Jody Byram, Joseph Hofer, Lawrence Gross, and David Hofer. Whoops, gotta get my finger in here. And sports, thank you for a fun-filled and successful season. And we have the NACI varsity girls roster. Back, left, right, Coach Wickens, Brianna Venn, Ella Koschel, Naomi Munoz, McKenna Sumner, Allison Beaumont, Anastasia Aktiuk, Lena Stadnick, Jody Bermudez. And front, left to right, Monique Melcy, Loris Lacaros, Daphne Fuentes, Kirsten Boris, Mary Jane Gulilater, and Charm Kupayan. And the NAC High Varsity Boys roster, right, this one here, back, left to right, Coach McFarlane, Anson Agalago, Cielo Dirato, Trent Tomanico, King Apparado, Gerald Mark Delamino, Miku Kabakunkan, Juris Luna, Roberta Sarmiento, Sammy Uvato, and front, left to right, Jan Yana, Phil Soltis, Andre Porton, Sid Morales, Paul Fernando, Eve Ngolblub, and missing Mary Martobago. And the NACI Junior Varsity Boys roster, back, left to right, Steve Calego, Daniel Gallero, Marvin Cow, Rowan Warwick, Emdri Cortez, Micah Fair, Rain DeWitt, Zenon Capuz, middle, left to right, Jason Maglante, Jaden Meramera, Evan Rogers, Lance Rizzle, Rez Cateros, Austin Aglagao, Arkan Valiente, front, left to right, Cedric Berog, Clifford Vallo, Coach Jaime Harrell, Ian Morales, and Jarzan Espiritu. Missing Jared Lopez, Daniel Santiago, and Marius Cabahog. And the NICI Junior Varsity Girls roster. Back, left, right, Coach Martin, Cassidy Ellis, Kaylin Zapanda, Kaylee Michalak, Arabella Wilson, Morgan Dick, Amelia Duncan Williams, Rihanna Kasprick, Silky Soltis, and the coach Joe. Front, Crystal Orata, Quinn Sawchuk, Janela Makatuno, Hannah Escabila, Ranjana Salambagat, and Maureen Pagliangan. And the Women in Business Paint Night hosted at Arts Forward. A Women in Business Paint Night was hosted at Arts Forward on the evening of Friday, April 4th. The paint night featured local artists and arts teacher Katie Martin, who guided the session. All in attendance had the opportunity to create their own inspirational sign with the available paints and other materials. Pictured left, full attention was given to Katie Martin as she explained the process that would be used for the evening project. Middle, with the introduction explanations complete, the individuals in attendance lined up at the painting buffet to gather their supplies. And right, with supplies on hand, the process of making the inspirational signs begin. Painting would follow later once preparations would complete. And Looking Back by Caspar Werhan, 125 years ago, April 11th, 1900. Ladysmith. At a meeting of the proposed school district, Mr. James Watson presiding, a long discussion took place about the name of the district. Reverend A. Dunlap thought there was nothing in a name, and Ross Keene thought it would do well in any other. He was afraid the post office authorities might not grant the post office if they were asked to change the name. The other settlers thought there was something in the name and decided to call the place Ladysmith. It was also agreed to petition the council to make the north half of Township 18 out of Ward 6 and add it to Ward 5. The Creamy Association at Minnedosa recently sold their creamy in business to H.C. Nielsen. The Stonewall Gazette advocates the establishment of a provincial paper mill at some point where suitable timber is most plentiful. The idea is not a bad one in view of the extraordinary prices now being pumped by the paper trust. 100 years ago, April 17th, 1925. Kelwood, Mr. and Mrs. Roy Buchan left Friday for Howden. Mrs. Buchan, who has been in Hatch and Cowston's garage for several years, is going to take on Winnipeg to take a position in garage work. His place here will be taken by James Brown of Neepawa. 75 years ago, April 13th, 1950. Last week, a news story in the Portage Daily Graphic told of the rescue of a member of the Plains City Fire Department, Vern Watson, by other firemen when he was overcome by smoke and fumes while investigating a furnace at Lyndon's florist shop. One of the rescuers was Orville Knutson, former Neepawa fireman, who joined the Portage Department accepting employment in Portage. Knutson, too, collapsed when he reached the outside air, but was soon all right. Oberon. Miss Nancy Mackenzie, who is attending business college in Winnipeg, is spending the holidays at the home of her parents, Mr. and Mrs. T. Mackenzie. Arden. Perry H. Ford has been promoted to the position of provincial agronomist in the Extension Department of the Manitoba Agricultural Department. He succeeds Robert Whiteman, who is retired March 31st, 1950. 50 years ago, Thursday, April 10th, 1975. Amaranth. Fire of unknown origin completely destroyed the 3-year-old laundromat owned by Mr. and Mrs. Dennis Isfield on Wednesday. Plumas. Patriotic Rebecca Lodge number 53 celebrated its 60th anniversary Tuesday evening, April 1st. Pictured 20 years ago, April 11th, 2005, and pictured if you heard a big thud in April of 2005, it may have been the crash of this single-engine aircraft at the Neepawa airport. The crash occurred on the Friday prior to the April 11th, 2005 edition of the Neepawa Press. The pilot was not injured in the mishap. A Brandon man has escaped injury when his single-engine plane crash landed in Neepawa last Friday. Fire and rescue teams were called out after the plane left the runway while the pilot was trying to land at the local airport around 1:30 p.m. The pilot did not require medical treatment. Note, it was ruled that there was no mechanical failures involved, and weather conditions and pilot error were determined to be the cause of the crash. It was a doggone good thing Neepawa's fire department showed up when it did last Wednesday. Fire Chief Robert Childs said 2 men were out on ice fishing at Lake Irwin around supper time when their dog stepped a little too close to an area under aeration. The mixed breed dog, which Childs said weighed around 75 pounds, fell through the ice and had to be rescued by 2 firefighters in special rescue suits. In honor of the opening of the regional games in June 2004, the McCreary District Economic Development Board honored 2 athletes of distinction who called McCreary home. Kirby Law, captain of the Houston Aeros hockey team, was present to receive his granite plaque and express his gratitude in person. Note, Todd Cable was also honored. And we have a correction. This statement is for the correction and clarification of the lot ownership stated in the April 4th story regarding the Gillen Small Dream Ride Park. Please note that the ownership of the lot the accessible pocket park will be built on is owned and being donated by Gillen Small Agencies as a whole and not a particular shareholder. The Neepawa Banner and Press apologizes for the error of phrasing in last week's story and for any misunderstanding caused therein. And letters to the editor. We need to have a national broadcaster. This is from Debbie Ott from Glenella. I want to thank Ralph Sabula of Gladstone for writing that he supports the CBC, March 28th letter to the editor. I am voting to save the CBC. I do too, as I have mentioned before in this paper. Yes, the CBC has its faults, but so do all other broadcasting companies. I think that in our current situation, we need to have a national broadcaster to help us understand the needs of each region. Last evening, I listened to a replay of yesterday morning's broadcast of The Current. Tom Galloway was in Alberta asking Albertans how they saw their place in the country, what their issues were for the current election cycle we're in, and what they'd like to see in the future. I found it interesting and enlightening. This helps us to understand each other better, to work together to keep Canada a sovereign country. The CBC is visiting a variety of regions in Canada at this time to get their views on what makes them who they are and what they need. I think we need to find ways to provide a united front against a neighboring country's leaders who promotes the idea that Canada is barely a country. I'm personally finding the CBC helpful in this. I looked up how many countries have a national broadcasting service. Perhaps it would have been better, easier to research who didn't, as the list was long. I think without a national broadcasting service to help us have a picture of ourselves as a national entity, as well as regional ones, we really might be barely a country. As a bonus, we also get a lot of information about other countries and regions in the world. We would sometimes see that our American neighbors are not as well served in this regard. I am also grateful to have a local newspaper to write letters to. A recent CBC program explored how very few communities have them and learned how happy those few have to have a real newspaper for their information. So thank you, Neepawa Banner and Press. You are much appreciated. And Put CBC on the Ballot by Bob Ford of Minnedosa. In response to Mr. Sabula's letter on a vote for the CBC, this is an excellent idea. Put the CBC on the ballot and they would be gone. They want to another $200 million because they have lost their sponsors. Privately owned business can't sponsor a network broadcasting extreme socialist rhetoric. Gilbert is going to give them $150 million. That would be $1.3 billion, and $150 million equals $145 billion annually from taxpayers that don't want them. The ratings show that the vote would somewhere between 50 and 70% to shut them down. What is saving to the taxpayer? In response to Bure's letter, he only listed 2 ways for Trump to take us over Canada. The third, we to follow Trump's endorsement and put Carney in PM, and all of Trudeau's Kill Canada MPs are still there. Trump knows this will be a final blow to a crippled country. I want to know why they can't take a few specific items that everybody needs, like a pound of meat and a loaf of bread, and show the amount of carbon tax from farm to table. Take an item like furniture from tree to home. Only involve Canada. No imports or tariffs. And we have Out of Helen's Kitchen, water waste and warm potato salad. Don't waste the water was often repeated in our household growing up. We had the cistern in the basement for collecting rainwater. A hand pump in the kitchen brought the water up from the cistern for washing dishes, clothes, hands, and bathing. Drinking and cooking water was brought in by pail from the pump at the well outside. All members of the family bathed in the same water. Every Saturday evening, Mom would heat the water on the stove and pour it in a tin bathtub in the kitchen. The baby was always bathed first, and up the line it went until Dad. Secretly, you hoped the younger siblings had not peed in the bath water. In the early days on the prairies, many people did not have access to water on their land. By horse and stone boat or wagon, water was hauled in barrels from the closest stream, slough, or river for the livestock in the house. Of course, the dirty water had to be hauled back outside. The cooking and dishwater went into the water for chickens or hogs. Used laundry water was used to water the garden or to scrub the floors. I cringe when I see people wasting water. Water is a precious resource, and we are so fortunate to have safe, clean drinking water. Much of the world is not so lucky. Did you know that although water covers 70% of the planet, less than 1% is drinkable? I think of the future generations and if they will still be able to have what we take for granted today. Canadians use around 250 liters of water every day. You can save 6 liters of water a minute by turning off your tap. For example, if you brush your teeth twice a day for the recommended 2 minutes, that is 24 liters a day. When washing your hands or face, put the plug in the sink instead of leaving the water run. Reuse bath towels to cut back on laundry. I wash my vegetables in a bowl in the sink and reuse the water to water my houseplants and garden. Instead of letting your tap water run until the water comes cold, keep a jug of water in the fridge. Install rain barrels and you can catch your rainwater runoff from your roof and reuse it for watering the garden. Your plants will thank you for rainwater rather than the treated tap water. For the average Canadian household, toilets make up over 30% of the overall water consumption. Every flush of a standard toilet uses up to 18 liters of water, while the newer water-efficient toilets use 5 liters per flush. Water is wasted if you have a slow leak in the toilet bowl and you do not know about it. Add some food coloring to the tank. You will soon see if you had a hidden leak that could be fixed. 35% of our water consumption is used to bathe. Low-flow shower heads can reduce your shower water usage by up to 60%, while still giving you a satisfactory shower experience. Simple upgrades and daily practices can lead to significant water savings. Saving water also means saving energy, which reduces your utility bills. Let's work together to protect this precious resource for generations to come. The good news is this: if everyone is doing a little bit, it will add up to a whole lot. And her recipe today is warm potato salad is a bit different than the traditional warm potato salad. Tender potatoes and crunchy veggies tossed in warm sour cream and Dijon dressing. What's not to love? It's quick and tasty side dish, perfect for any meal. And it's delicious. And she has a recipe for warm potato salad. It sounds pretty good. And going on, we'll see what else we got to read. Well, it looks like we're back to the end of the paper, the kids' scoop. And this one's on whales, orca opera. And there's games and puzzles and all sorts of things on whales. Show it to your kids. And that concludes the Neepawa Banner and Press for Friday, April 11th, 2025. I hope you enjoyed it.